Hello, welcome everyone along to this Rise and Shine event with our Digital Citizens Award finalists for the Scottish Charity Awards. My name is Rory Brown. I am one of the Digital Inclusion Development Officers here at SCVO, and I'm hosting today's event. I was lucky enough to be part of the shortlisting panel for today's category. So spoiler alert, we have some truly amazing projects that we're going to hear from today. So hope you are comfy, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. We are joined today by Brock from One Parent Families, Claudia from People Know How, Margo from the Louise Project, Shaun from Glasgow's Golden Generation, and Sybil from Leeds, Scotland. The run through of this event is going to be that it is recorded. Each of our participants and finalists have 90-second pitches that they are going to lead on. There are some questions from the chair, and if we have some time, we're going to open it out to Q&As at the end. So if you have any burning questions or anything you would like to explore, feel free to put it in the chat box. Also, a quick heads up that a couple of our panel and myself have some rogue pets. They might be making appearances. I know that other people have dogs. I have a cat who is quite happily sleeping there, but occasionally likes to sleep on keyboards. So we will see how that goes. If you are not part of our finalists, could I ask that we take our cameras off and mute, and we will be hearing from them all individually just now. So could we kick off? We're going to go alphabetical order for all this. So could we kick off with Brock from One Parent Families with his 90-second pitch?
Excuse me just 1 second, and I will be right with you. Hi, as Rory said, I'm Brock. I'm from One Parent Family Scotland in Edinburgh. We help single parent families with things like mental health and well-being, employability, parenting, and weekly family activities. For our project, before COVID, we already understood the importance of families having the digital equipment, connectivity, and most importantly, the confidence in being online and how that would impact in turn on the effectiveness of the support that we were offering in these different areas. Given that single parent families are twice as likely to be living in poverty, the pandemic then created an urgency in addressing that digital exclusion that we were already trying to work with. So within weeks of the first lockdown, we began offering new digital skills sessions. There were about 56 of those in all. We did hundreds of one-to-one video sessions with parents and families, and we also gifted 123 new laptops, tablets, and connectivity to families who needed them. But crucially, this was not a standalone form of help, but an integral part of all the work that we were offering and developing. This enabled parents on furlough were made redundant to apply for and be successful in gaining employment. Children and young people could homeschool and apply to university with the appropriate devices. Parents could access a range of information and advice relevant to their situation at a really important time. And they could also reduce their isolation by being able to connect with friends and families online, as well as take care of their mental health and well-being by attending our groups and free one-to-one counseling. Now, we remain in touch with most of these families and feel confident that the support that we offer not only helped them in their roles as digital citizens, but also helped them to feel more part of their social and economic communities at a really unprecedented time. So I'm just going to put a wee link for a video that a parent sent us unsolicited. Thank you. I'll put that in the chat box, and and that'll be me. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brock. And I look forward to seeing the video. I always like seeing how our work impacts end users. So yeah, love to see that. Our next finalist is Claudia from People Know How with her 90-second pitch.
Hello, I'm Claudia Baldacchino, Communications and IT Officer at People Know How. So People Know How is a Scottish social innovation charity with a passion for solving social issues. We're based in Edinburgh and East Lothian, and we work with people and communities to develop innovative strategies and services to address social issues both locally and nationally. We do this through two core services, Positive Transitions, which supports children, young people and families, and Reconnect, which supports adults and families to improve well-being through increasing digital and social inclusion. So this year, we've supported over 3,000 people across Edinburgh and East Lothian with free devices, computers, laptops, tablets, phones, digital skills support and training and connectivity support. So we've done this through our COVID emergency response project, Computer Delivery, which delivers devices free to people's doorsteps. Once a recipient receives the device, we give follow-up support, and we also offer for them to join our Wellbeing in Digital project, which helps them get the digital skills to use the device. We also run the Connecting Scotland National Helpline, giving further digital skills support. And we're also running a national campaign called Connectivity Now to end data poverty, which we're collecting pledges for at the moment. So our work over the past year has helped over 3,000 people stay connected with their communities, friends and families, homeschool their children, access essential resources, and learn new skills, amongst other things. We have so many examples of wonderful positive stories and case studies. A service user who's used her iPad to be able to communicate with her deaf family members using sign language. Many young people who were previously using their parents' iPhones to complete schoolwork, but now have a device of their own. People who have managed to improve their financial status, saving hundreds of pounds online through using a device or applications on a phone. And as well as we also support organizations. So we've helped youth clubs continue running movie pizza nights and things like that, just allowing people to continue their services. And now we're really excited to be running our national campaign to end data poverty, which we found to be the biggest obstacle to digital inclusion. But we're really happy to be here, so thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Claudia. It's again amazing to hear the scale of a lot of this work. The importance of digital has become really, really evident throughout the pandemic. So it's really great to hear about projects doing this sort of thing. Margo, you're next from the Louise Project.
Hi. Can you see me? Sorry.
Absolutely fine.
Oh, it's fine. Okay, that's grand. Well, thank you very much for running this fabulous awards this year. It's just been, I suppose, wonderful for us all to be able to put forward what we've been doing. The Louise Project, which is also known as The Space, operates within Govan Hill, which is the most culturally diverse area in the whole of Scotland, well over 50 languages. And our aim is really to support families to flourish and for the community to thrive. We do this by enabling families to access the material resources they need for daily life, food, clothing and bedding, to integrate into society and access services, and to build a better life through developing self-efficacy, self-esteem, and also the transferable skills that they need, such as education. The main community we support are the European Roma, and that presented us with particular challenges during the pandemic. First of all, for many there was no furlough, because furlough is only for those with legal contracts. There was limited understanding of what was happening, for many had limited or no capacity to understand English. And there was also little ability to read or write. So in March 2020, the world really did become a digital place overnight. And every aspect of life really seemed to need digital skills. So we set up 4 new services to support the families. There was our crisis support, pastoral care line, an online information service, and also our digital inclusion. And for digital inclusion, we appointed a coordinator. We purchased 9 tablets with 2 years internet access back in March. And then by the summer, we then, through Connecting Scotland, obtained another 32 devices, iPads. So we had 41 families with internet devices access who were able to re-engage with their learning and also participate in social activities. So everybody was taught how to use the device, everybody was given an email account, and we taught them how to use apps such as Google Maps were used for geography lessons. We used the Asda shopping app for teaching numeracy, literacy and digital skills. People took part in craft competitions, social activities. They learned about the restrictions, the importance of social distancing, and all the new measures that were then to follow. Feedback was really uplifting and very moving. One woman brought a letter in from the school, inviting her to connect with a forum to view her child's learning using a QR code, which she was then taught and able to do. And she was just absolutely thrilled. After one of the wellbeing sessions, one of our beneficiaries said, "After this, I start to feel normal again." We partnered with Clyde College, and amazingly, we managed to have 12 participants complete an online college course. And these were ladies that prior to last year had limited literacy and certainly no digital know-how. Most of our services in Govan Hill remained closed during the pandemic, but we were there, and over 40% of those we were supporting we had never known before. So we see this as a real opportunity now to stay connected with people and to enable them to build a better life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margo. And again, amazing to hear about the work in Govan Hill being so close to where I live. Next on our list is Shaun from Glasgow's Golden Generation.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Shaun. I'm from Glasgow's Golden Generation. I work as a digital inclusion officer. So Glasgow's Golden Generation, our main focus is to reduce loneliness and isolation in older adults in Glasgow. So we've got 3 day centres across the city, and they're a place where older adults can come along, have some lunch, make friends and take part in activities like bingo. Our befriending service offers a friendly face to visit our service users, and also we have a free benefits check to make sure that they're getting what they're entitled to. However, last year when the pandemic hit, we had to come up with a way of providing our services without being able to physically see our service users. So our day centres were shut, the country was locked down, and many of our service users were shielding. So we spoke to them, and they told us that getting online was very important to them now more than ever. We didn't want older adults in Glasgow to be digitally excluded. COVID gave us the tools and the funding from Connecting Scotland and also from SCVO's Digital Inclusion Fund, and we started our digital project. Since the start of the project, we've delivered over 200 tablets and iPads, along with connectivity to older adults in Glasgow. Many of the older adults we work with have dementia or other disabilities, and a huge number of them have never had to use the internet, either in their working lives or never mind for leisure. Many of our service users have disabilities such as hearing loss, sight loss, dementia, and mobility issues, so we've adapted our approach to fit their needs. We developed a dementia-friendly app, and on that we have a weekly blether on Zoom where anyone can join in. We also host weekly bingo games, interactive puzzles, online activities and more. Most of our older adults began their digital journey just using this app, but many have now gone on to access different initiatives such as befriending, they do their online shopping and can email friends and family around the world as their confidence has grown. Our team of digital champions have been available via phone and where possible in person to provide support to them. The impact of this project has been far-reaching. Hundreds of adults have been able to get online during the pandemic and social isolation has been reduced. The project has been so successful that now myself and my colleague Chris have been employed to continue with the work. With restrictions eased, we are now able to get out and about and get into our service users' homes to offer support. And we're now in the process of collaborating with different partners to deliver workshops back in our day centres now that they're open. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shaun. And last but by no means least, we have Sybil from Leeds, Scotland, potential guest speaker being her dog, who before she joined this call warned us sometimes joins the kitchen as soon as she starts speaking.
He was just barking actually because someone came to the door, but luckily I wasn't on the camera. Great, thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear about everyone's projects. We're in such good company here, and that's a real privilege for us. I'm Sybil from Leeds, Scotland. Leeds, Scotland supports disabled people and carers with personalised learning, which is often like one-to-one, home-based learning, befriending and educational advice. So we heard from our learners that they found a lot of the basic digital skills training and cybersecurity information to be inaccessible, specifically with certain impairments as well. Often there's too much jargon, and there's also just the sheer amount of information out there can be very overwhelming for people. So we co-developed it's called Everyday Digital Skills course with the Open University in Scotland, which really had accessibility at the forefront to meet the needs of our learners and also the wider public, and that course is free. And during the pandemic, we really saw, with this, which other people have mentioned, this massive shift to everything being online. So we saw the need for extra security training in the public, practitioners, but also carers. A lot of people were now taking on caring roles they didn't have before, or extra caring roles. They were getting a lot of questions from the people that they were caring for about online safety. You know, now they were having to do online shopping, having to do online banking, everything was shifting to online. So we really saw that need. So we, over the year in total, did 42 webinars, sort of on the back, getting more confident using Zoom. And now just to plug our current project, we are converting online safety information into accessible format. So Braille, British Sign Language, easy read, large print, structured documents, so that's for using assistive technology like a screen reader, for example. And we've also got an accompanying webinars, and we're going to try out for the first time doing some Facebook Lives for members of the public in October. That's what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sybil. So you've now heard from all of our finalists and a wee quick summary of their work. It's truly amazing to hear them bring the life to the stories that we had read so much about in the shortlisting panel, and it's very clear that there's some really truly meaningful impact that's come from this work. The thing that strikes me is very strong throughout all our finalists is that although this is about digital citizenship, that the support that people are offering is more than just around access to connectivity and devices, and indeed that support that comes from digital and building digital confidence and skills, that every single one of them have spoke about holistic support and that general social capital and helping people survive and continue to thrive throughout the pandemic, which is really, really important to hear. So we're moving into the questions element. I have 3 from the chair, using my privileged position to ask 3 questions. There's potentially a wee opportunity to ask questions yourself. Anyone who's in our attendee list, if you want to pop any questions in the Q&A section, feel free and see if we can get to it in time. We're going to go again in alphabetical order. So my apologies, Brock, you're going to be first on the list. So the question is, and I don't know if everyone fancies putting on your cameras for this because it makes it a wee bit easier in terms of chatting, is the first question is, what is your biggest achievement during this year, this charity year that we're celebrating? What's your biggest achievement, Brock?
Well, this is probably cheating, but it's almost, to me, it's almost a cocktail of achievements that, because while we were doing all these, I think, really important bits of support to people around digital inclusion with single parent families, we were also thrust into a situation that we were anticipating, but hadn't anticipated dealing with quite so quickly, of staff who, you know, I think this is probably true for lots of staff who are in a helping profession, that, you know, digital tools are probably not their first go-to thing. And so we, having to all of a sudden be able to deliver services online and get used to communicating through different new, whether it's Slack or Salesforce or different forms of responding to really an exceptionally high level of demand suddenly. I'm so proud of the small team that we've gotten and how they responded to that, and we're really flexible, so yeah.
Amazing, Brock, thank you so much. Claudia, same question to yourself. Biggest achievement from People Know How this year?
I think it's kind of similar. It's our growth and our ability to be able to support even more people. We've essentially almost tripled in size, and because of the pandemic, we had to adapt digitally. So I was heavily involved in leading our digital transformation, and I was so positively impressed by everyone wanted to take part in it. Everyone wanted to muddle in, and we're now using systems that I probably could only have dreamed of us using a couple of years ago. And because of that, we've managed to bring, so we've been in East Lothian since 2019, but we didn't have our full range of services, but because of the pandemic, we managed to roll everything out. We got some funding, so we were able to support a lot more people, and our staff team has grown, and that's really allowed us to kind of, what you mentioned earlier, with digital inclusion, it has to be holistic. All support that we offer has to be holistic. It isn't something that you can solve in one interaction, because that connectivity is ongoing and those skills are always changing. So we're able to provide that holistic support because of our growth and just support the number of people that we do. And the over 3,000, that's not a number I thought that I'd be saying at this stage, but it is, and it's growing every day. Probably, but from the time I've written the application, it's grown massively already. So it's just, an ongoing journey, and it just is very positive for us.
Perfect, thank you so much. Margo, same question to yourself. Biggest achievement? Oh, sorry, Margo, you're muted.
Hi, thank you. I mean, that question actually cuts very deep. I think it is much wider than the whole digital access, digital inclusion. For the team, it was certainly about never closing the doors. It was about, we were always there, we were always present. Digital was certainly a very important part of what we provided in terms of the families and enabling them to become digital. But it was all about the crisis, it was all about the integration, it was all about understanding, and being present in the community at that time. I cannot applaud the team enough, because the courage that took at a time when most doors closed, they stood there and they remained present. And we just were totally steadfast in being alongside a community that are very impoverished, but also had very little understanding of what was happening. And it was bad enough for all of us who knew exactly what and why and when and where. But this was a community who didn't know, and for whom there was no furlough. So being present and ensuring everybody's needs were met, it was about, it was about honouring the dignity of people. That was our achievement.
I don't think it could be summarised better. Thank you so much, Margo. Shaun, how about yourself? Biggest achievement for Glasgow's Golden Generation?
Yeah, I would agree with Margo. Very similar, just the fact that we were able to be there for older people in a very scary time. Scary for everyone, but lots of our service users are already very isolated and lonely, and just the pandemic just tripled that. So just being able to connect them with people. Say, for example, at Christmas time, when there's a scary time, lots of our service users didn't get to see anybody on Christmas Day, and some of our staff, but mostly volunteers, stepped up and they went out to visit them on Christmas Day, just a little doorstep visit. And if they did have a tablet or an iPad, they were able to set up a little Zoom call with their families so that they did get to see them on Christmas Day, and it just made that day a little bit special. And something to look forward to, and something they could hold on to throughout winter, whilst they weren't seeing anybody else really. So yeah, just probably that, just being there as a means of support for our service users. That's our biggest.
Thank you very much. And finally, Sybil.
Yeah, like others, I think just the reach. We are traditionally very much a one-to-one or very small group, personalised learning. That's kind of our offer to people, is supporting them with their goals through a learning journey, if they want to get qualifications or learn new skills, etc. That's traditionally our offer. So being able to do these webinars online and have this course online, we reached 989 people over the course of it, which is, for us, because we're a small charity, is an awful lot of people. That's such a big achievement for us. And many of them as well, we got really good feedback, many of which people saying they were going to share the knowledge that they learned with us with others, which was one of our goals as well, was that people could pass on the learning, either with peer support, peer learning, or if they were a carer, they were able to pass that on to the person they were caring for, or pass it on to a family member or whatever. And also there was we captured from the feedback, a real evidence of learning and behavioral change in terms of making a stronger password and using a password manager, being able to recognize scams. There's such an increase in scams, as everyone knows, during online scams during the pandemic. So I think for us, that was the biggest achievement. It's just been able to reach more people. And also most of our projects are based in certain parts of Scotland, but with being able to be online, we reach people in every single local authority area in Scotland. That was big for us, being able to reach, just to reach. Yeah, that's what we're most proud of.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much everyone for your answers. I fully expected to hear something quite tangible, like oh, we did this project very well and we got this many people as your outcomes, but it's genuinely so lovely to hear you reflect on the capacity and the resilience, and as Margo said, the courage of your staff and your organization's ability to grow and thrive and really kind of overcome the challenges of the pandemic, which when you think about 18 months on, it's kind of normal now, but at the time this was all very, very new, and I think it reflects really well of us, you as finalists, that you are here talking about it, because you are really at the forefront of that challenge and that journey of no one knowing what was happening and no one knowing what digital participation was going to be. So to hear you talk about staff capacity and organisations was a genuine, very lovely surprise. Thank you so much. Our next question is about the biggest lesson you think you've learned as an organisation through the pandemic. Brock, we'll go through you first.
This is probably keeping in the theme of some of what we've already said. I would say I've relearned or re-emphasized the fact that things like computers are just tools, and they're not an end of themselves. And without building up the trust and understanding the needs of the families that we have been working with, we were just going to waste time and money and potentially push people further away from being digitally included and feeling confident online and things. So we've just kind of relearned the importance of slowly building those up that trust, and before we start bringing in kit.
Totally. Claudia, same question to yourself, biggest lesson?
Yeah, I think for us, not to plug our campaign, but also to plug our campaign a little bit, it revolves around data poverty. I mean, we had digital projects before the pandemic. We have our digital service called Reconnect, and it was mainly focused on digital skills and well-being. But because of the pandemic, we kind of had to upscale it. We had to develop computer delivery, and what came with that was people requesting connectivity. And as the operators of the Connecting Scotland helpline, we've kind of seen the amazing solutions that Connecting Scotland has offered. But we're very conscious that we would have questions of what happens after the 2 years, which is the provision that they're currently offering. So that's kind of why we launched the campaign. And we really wanted to pull on one of our core values, which is collaboration and sharing our learning and uniting our voices with organizations like the others that are here now. So just kind of acknowledging that you can get the device, you can get the skills, but they're kind of useless if you don't have the connectivity. And connectivity is an ongoing cost. So how do you keep that up? You can't provide that forever. So that's why we're kind of going national with the debate, and we're inviting pledges for that. So that's just been a big area that we maybe weren't as aware of just over a year ago. So I would say, yeah, big lesson for us, and hopefully we can continue the work going forward as well, because we don't want it to stop as we recover. It needs to be something that's addressed continually, just as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And guys, don't apologise at all for plugging projects. This is the time, this is the place. Plug away, please. Margo, same question.
I think one of the greatest things we learned is the power of the team, because what we witnessed was that when the team came together, and in circumstances that were actually very fearful for a lot of people, then we became so much more powerful and so capable of doing great things. And that's what they did. The most intransigent amongst us became super flexible, became fluid. We responded, we changed, we adapted, and we did that month on month with every restriction change. And the fears that people had were really diluted by the power of the team and what that meant. And it was that power of people united together to do something that if you had asked them on their own, they would say, don't be ridiculous, Margo, that's just not possible. But we did it. They did it.
Absolutely. Shaun, same question for yourself. Biggest lesson the organisation's learned?
So I think a big challenge that we faced was a lot of our service users, or many of them, had like zero digital skills at all, and without being able to do like ongoing face-to-face with them, it was just a huge challenge. So we kind of combated that by developing our app. So the tablets and devices that we issued, we made sure that the app was very clear on the home screen. It was the only app there for people who did have very low level skills, and just made sure that they could get into the app. And at least when they were in the app, it was dementia friendly. All the icons were large, it was very accessible, and it was as simple as possible. So just as long as we could get people onto that app, then they could at least navigate around that and get either connected with people through online chats and things, or even just as simple as clicking on videos, like for example, armchair exercises or wee videos of Glasgow through the ages, that type of thing. So as long as we were getting people into that, then they were still getting some benefit of their tablet. So yeah, I think that's kind of how we overcame that for now, and then that's just ongoing. The people who have navigated the app and are good at that, now we're going back out to them to show them everything else that these tablets can do.
Thank you so much, Shaun. Sybil?
Yeah, and it kind of relates to one of in the Q&A. Someone's question is our biggest kind of challenge was how to reach the people to support them with digital skills and particularly cyber resilience is the main thing, the online safety, who aren't confident during a pandemic, who aren't confident using their device and don't have the skills. Like, how do we actually physically reach them? We can't in person go and talk to them. We can't do everything in a room. And that really took a lot of creative marketing, really utilizing contacts and also the contacts of our whole team, and really saying, okay, who can we talk to, who do they work with, how can we support them, how can we adapt ourselves to their needs. So one example is we had a contact with a supportive housing organization, and they had their service users and they really wanted to be able to see one of our webinars. So we talked to the practitioners at the organization so they could set up, this was during the pandemic, set up a room with a big screen so that a group of people could watch one of our webinars and interact with that. I think, you know, social distance, because usually we would be able to go into the room and sort of present to them. So that kind of adaptability, I think, was really needed to be able to actually reach the people that we wanted to reach and that needed it the most. But I do think there was a kind of wave of enthusiasm for Zoom that's kind of peaked a bit, and people not as enthusiastic that we had last year, especially in the summer. But people were more keen to go on Zoom and to learn about how to use Zoom. So we also gave extra support with how to use Zoom. And also in terms of just accommodating for different accessibility needs as well, that was really a priority for people. So, you know, subtitles, sending slides, extra one-on-one support afterwards, etc., etc. So yeah, that was really the biggest lesson was how to, and that we're still using today, is the lessons about how to actually reach the people online that you're trying to support that aren't online, or very, very small amount online.
Thank you so much. Sybil, you've done a nice segue into that Q&A question, and I feel like this is the time to go off the rails and stop the round robin very quickly. There is a question that says, how do you overcome the challenges of providing support remotely to people that perhaps weren't confident online? Now, I'm not going to go round us all and then put you on the spot, but I wonder if, given the experience that you all have, does anyone have any thoughts on how your organisation kind of rose to that challenge of remote support? And then we'll go back to the final question. Claudia.
Yeah, so this resonates with me quite a lot. I've been giving quite a lot of presentations over the last year, which you wouldn't assume someone that works in IT would be doing. But for us, it was very much, we talk a lot about a can-do attitude, and it sounds cheesy, but just really having that flexibility and working with people to make sure that the support is tailored to them. So if someone, we offer digital support, so a big obstacle for us was how do we adapt that? We did a lot of adaptation to Teams. So how do you adapt that if it's the actual issue that we're trying to kind of solve? So there's a lot of working on the phone at first, just making sure that people are comfortable, talking them through things, having that kind of flexibility, and then working your way up. And even in terms of like the staff team, we did a lot of self-help development, a lot of use of Teams in terms of collaborating. So making sure that you still have the opportunity for your informal chat, even though you are working from your living room or your bedroom. So making sure that everything isn't just about the service delivery, it's also about that kind of team dynamic. We also made accounts for our young people on Office 365, which we didn't used to do before, but that involved a lot of security considerations. So I spent a lot of time working on that in the kind of back end of Office 365 and kind of drawing on the resources that we already had, because we have a non-profit Office 365 subscription, but we maybe weren't using as yet. So it was really interesting work and really just discovering the capabilities of the tools and also the team. Yeah.
Absolutely, it is such a big, important question. And I remember at the start of the pandemic being faced with that challenge, and all I could think about was this one phone call I had with my mother who lives in another country, trying to explain how a printer worked. And it being one of the most stressful times in my life and going, I can't do that for 18 months. There has to be some way of doing this. What about everyone else? Anyone else, any other thoughts on how their organisations went towards remote support? There's an interesting balance, I think, between maybe Margo and Shaun about, as you both mentioned, about still having a presence and still being part of that community. How did that work and being in the pandemic?
Yeah, so when we were issuing the devices, it was complete lockdown. So there was absolutely no possibility of going into people's homes. So when we were setting up the devices, we made sure we set up all of our service users with an email address that we knew that we could contact them through that. And of course, we had their phone numbers and stuff. So what was useful was when we were phoning them, it was useful to always have a device in front of us. So it was either our service user had an iPad, a Lenovo tablet, or a Hawaii, I never know how to say that, Hawaii tablet. So when we were phoning them, we'd always have one in front of us so that we could, as we were talking them through, we would do the same steps so we could see. Then we ended up downloading, I can't remember what the app's called, but it was sort of like a screen sharing app where we could have remote control of a service user's iPad or tablet, which we would more sort of use to like troubleshoot some problems. We didn't want to sort of take control of it and do it for them, but it was really useful if there was a particular issue that it was very, very hard to explain over the phone. But yeah, obviously there was issues with those two methods, but they did kind of provide a bit of a way forward when we were through complete lockdowns until restrictions slightly eased and we were actually able to go out and see our service users. So yeah, that's kind of how we sort of got over it.
Thank you so much. So guys, if there's no more reflections on that question, absolutely perfectly covered. We'll go to our last of our set questions, which is, and it kind of relates quite nicely to some of your answers in the first one about recognising staff and the amazing work they've done. So the last question is, if you had one piece of advice to give other organisations, what would you say to help them celebrate their own successes? And we'll start again round robin. Let's go, Brock.
Yeah, I would. Well, despite being an American, I'm actually not very good at self-promotion. So that's been a challenge for me for probably a few years, and possibly leaked into how I've managed our project and prioritized that activity. But But over the past couple of years, I definitely as part of this process in particular, I've come to better understand that raising awareness of the great work that we're doing. You know, it shouldn't be an add-on to the day job. It's really an essential element of what my role is as a manager, and it's important for the potential users of our services to know about what we do and the quality of what we do, but also, as we've been talking about, our staff, they need to feel valued in lots of different ways, and this is just one way of doing that. So it's been eye-opening for me, and COVID and all these processes that we've been talking about has kind of been part of that for me as well.
Absolutely. You've picked the perfect time to come back to me as the bin man just drives past. Claudia, same question to yourself.
For this question, I'm going to kind of appeal to the other side of my job, which is communications. So anyone in People Know How will tell you that I'm always talking about social media. I'm always talking about consistency and shouting about our work. And I have been, I've kind of started People Know How communications from a very early phase. And my big thing is like, you can do the most amazing work in the world, but if you're not telling anybody about it, how are they going to know? So talking through social media, using all the channels at your disposal, helping others find out about you, helping your funders see that you're doing the work that you said you would, helping partners potentially find you and collaborate on similar projects. We're very much of the opinion that if you are doing something successfully, you shouldn't hoard it. You should share that learning, so that we're a small, medium-ish small charity. So if we're doing something successfully in Edinburgh and East Lothian, we'd love someone, say in Aberdeen, to get in touch and learn about how we're doing it, so we can support more people across Scotland and maybe even further afield. So yeah, and really just appealing to all your audiences. You've got audiences of your volunteers, of maybe interns, of your staff team, of your service users, partners, funders. So there's such a wide variety out there, especially in the third sector. And it's a challenge communicating to all of them in a way that appeals to everyone at the same time, because you don't know who's going to come across your tweet. But there's so much value in it, and showcasing is underrated, I think, but also call to action are amazing. So yeah, I can drone on about comms for ages, but communications is key.
Thank you so much. And I love a call to action. Love it. Margo, same question to yourself. What piece of advice would you give an organisation to help celebrate their successes?
I believe there's two sides to this question. One is in terms of what was previously said, in terms of the promotion of the work that's been done. And I hold my hand up because we're actually quite poor at that in the Louise Project. The team are all aware that we're very poor. That's something that we've really discussed. And so things like our social media has really been beefed up, our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, our websites were hacked during lockdown, and we're still having problems on that front. But yes, it is about the promotion side of it for people to know. But the other side of that coin is the staff themselves. And we're having a party, simple as that. 1st of October, we're all having a party. So we're celebrating the very fact that we're finalists, and we are so looking forward to it. And it is going to be a glittering party, without a doubt. So we're going to come together with our volunteers, with some of our beneficiaries, and we're having a blast on the 1st of October.
Good for you. Any excuse for a party in my books. And I think, in that kind of wider sense, anything to kind of bookend the pandemic. We've had 18 months of being very agile and having some time to reflect and celebrate that success. Super important. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the 1st of October. I had a brief panic when I realised that I don't have going out clothes anymore. So I'm gonna. I think I've promised a bow tie, which I was quite confident at the start, but I actually don't know where to buy one. So, Shaun, same question for yourself. A piece of advice you would give organisations to celebrate their successes?
Yeah, I would say maybe just like celebrate the small wins. Like big wins are important, and like the numbers of if you're reaching many people, but it's also important to remember to just celebrate the little things. Like if you've had an impact on one service user's life, like that's really meaningful to them, and tell other staff members about it if you had a really good day, and that'll just kind of ground everyone and make you remember why you're doing the job that you're doing. And as like Claudia, I'd come from a comms background as well, so I'm always on the lookout for potential stories and press releases. So yeah, just if you do have like wee wins like that, just if you've got a comms team in your organisation, just tell them, speak to them about it. It might be something they want to share on social media. It might be something they want to write something about. So yeah, just communicate with the different departments in your organisation and just share successes.
Absolutely. The importance of stories throughout these answers, 100%, totally agree. Sybil, last one.
Yeah, I'd say including everyone. I think our board members and our volunteers are integral to our work. So we're doing a watch party as well. Well, we're doing, because we're so spread out across Scotland as well. So we're doing an online watch party where we're gonna share the charity award screen in our Zoom. Hopefully it'll work out. And we're going to kind of celebrate, and we're sending our little goodie bags to everyone as we can all toast. And obviously, yeah, bow ties and ball gowns are expected, of course. But yeah, I think just to celebrate everyone, obviously we had a small staff on this project and for this application and working on those projects, but we really needed everyone chipped in some way, whether it was sharing something, talking to someone about something. So yeah, just trying to include everyone, and learners as well as part of that, and our service users, volunteers, board members, staff, everyone. So yeah, I think we don't get much chance, especially in the pandemic, to kind of meet up all together in an evening as well. So it's just a really nice chance to do that as well, just making it special, little touches.
Absolutely. Again, any excuse for a party, I'm all for it. Guys, we've come to the end of our webinar. You'll be glad. No more difficult questions, no questions about your strengths and weaknesses and where you see yourselves in 5 years. It's not an interview at all. I just want to thank you all very much for sharing your amazing stories today. And I know I speak for my colleague Ailey, who's sitting in the background of this as well, where we were very fortunate to be part of the shortlisting for this. And there's nothing quite like hearing people talk about their work instead of just reading it on a page, and hearing the passion that comes from you and your organizations, and hearing your reflections of the last 18 months. It's always really difficult to try and explain your work and what you've been doing over changing circumstances that almost change from week to week, and then ask you to summarize it in 90 seconds is a very difficult time. But you've all smashed it, and thank you very much for your input today. Just a wee final thing for myself, as well as saying thank you very much, is just to remind anyone who's watching or anyone who's attended today that the Scottish Charity Awards is on October the 1st. You can sign up to come along on our website, and we have spoken about it multiple times. Any excuse for a party, ball gowns, bow ties, both of them on at the same time. All of that's expected. And I look forward to seeing many of you there. And best of luck to all of our finalists on the Digital Citizenship Award today. So thank you very much for coming. And I look forward to seeing all your work again soon, hopefully face to face. And have a good day, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.